Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast. We're your hosts, Cody Norman
and Logan Fry, process recovery specialists at the Perfect Step, also known as TPS.
We are not doctors and are not prescribing anything, as this podcast is for informational purposes and should not be considered legal advice.
We are, however, sharing knowledge and experience that we have gained from working for years with clients in the paralysis community.
The guests on this podcast include members from the paralysis community sharing their perspective and insight.
Suggestions and advice that we share may affect each person differently, as not one injury or diagnosis is the same.
On this episode of Pathways to Healing, we have on Chelsie Hill, professional dancer, social media influencer, mother, and founder of the Rollettes and Rollettes experience.
Topics that we covered in this episode included emotional healing, parenting with paralysis, being a business owner in the paralysis community, as well as dancing and how many experiences Chelsie has with that. Stay tuned on her Pathways to Healing. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pathways to Healing. We have Chelsie Hill on today. Welcome, Chelsie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Coming on.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Fantastic. Couldn't be better.
Great. Excited for the holiday season, as I'm sure most people.
Me too.
Yeah.
Should be a good one. Chelsie, for those, I'm sure there's not that many, but those who don't know you, would you mind giving our listeners a little bit of background on your story?
Yeah, cliff notes of my story. So I was a competitive dancer my entire life. Growing up, I knew I wanted to be a dancer. I was 17 years old and made the mistake of getting in the car with a friend that was drinking. We ended up hitting a tree head on, and I became paralyzed from the waist down. And I have a spinal cord injury, so I'm paralyzed from T10. Well, T10 level, and I'm a paraplegic. So I then started a wheelchair dance team, which then led me to start a women's empowerment weekend for women and children with disabilities. And I love to dance still in my chair. And I've been out to Howell's facility for years, like 6 years in a row. I went and drove out there, and it was literally incredible. I did a lot of physical therapy. I was the first person in a wheelchair to be on Women's Health magazine. I've been on Ellen. And yeah, I have a daughter, and life is great. Lots to dive in.
You've done so many different things, and I think we're excited to touch on all those little facets. But before we get there, you kind of touched on coming into the facility. Can you talk about how your recovery process went and maybe how the Perfect Step or Project Walk at that time? I'm not sure when the time frame was, but kind of how that was intertwined with your recovery process and might have helped you in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually it was Project Walk at the time, but then when I was kind of I was still going there, but it was transitioning to the Perfect Step. It honestly changed my life. I think like going into physical therapy, especially being newly injured, it literally gave me the strength that I needed in order to be independent in whatever, facility that I needed that to be. If it was personal, if it was the transfers, if it was being able to just have the confidence, it gave me that boost that I needed. And I also discovered that I could do certain things when I was at Project Walk, which is now the Perfect Step. But I went for about 5-6 years, and it was incredible. Everyone there completely changed my life. Still has a huge imprint on my heart. All the trainers there. So yeah, it was definitely worth the drive. It was about a 45-minute drive there and about an hour and 15 on the way back. And I went twice a week, I think it was. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It was amazing.
Were you at the Project Walk in Claremont the whole time, or did you ever go down to the Project Walk in Carlsbad as well?
So I actually started at the Carlsbad location. And then when I lived in Monterey at the time, so I would go down and I would do 1 month at, the Carlsbad location. Wow, we're really the throwback. I'm going back in my brain. I'm wait, what did I do? But yeah, I went to the Carlsbad one for a month, and then I'd go home for 2 months, and then I would go for a month. But then I discovered the Claremont location. And when Hal opened that, I started going there, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and then I went there for, I think, 2 years.
So did you meet Hal at Project Walk in Carlsbad, or did you meet him when you started going to Project Walk Claremont?
So I actually met Carl I met him at the Carlsbad location.
Yeah.
And he was such a cool, like, get to know like, he was just like, "Hey, what's up? Like, I'm Hal," like, so personable, and that was when I was super newly injured, so I didn't know anybody. I didn't know really anyone with a disability, and I remember he just was, like, super nice and very just, like, talkative, and then I remember he was opening up a location that was still Project Walk up in, like, the LA area, but I think it was, like, Claremont. So yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
That's exciting to hear, especially about all of your physical aspects of recovery. Kind of one of the
Mhm.
questions I had for you was how much did that affect your emotional side, like the sense of community? That's something that we've been talking about, um, kind of leading into the aspect of you starting your own foundation of the Rollettes and Rollettes experience. And to me,
Mhm.
that's it's another community, and it is a group of individuals coming together to support each other who might have had not the best cards dealt to them in
Mhm.
unfortunate circumstances. But can you talk about maybe how was there a bit of an overlap of you finding that sense of community and wanting to try to bring that to more people?
Yeah, I will say, like, when I was first injured, I didn't want anything to do with anyone with a disability. I mean, I knew people, like, that had disabilities beforehand, like, before I was paralyzed, but I didn't know anyone specifically with a spinal cord injury, really. Like, I knew people in the community when I started going to Project Walk, but not really. I was very newly injured, and I was very like, "Oh, I'm gonna be that miracle that gets up and walks again," and, like, it's those cases are rare, but I think the more facilities that are out there, the more that it is possible because people need the right kind of physical therapy, not just sorry, but not just like the hospital stuff, but they actually need the intensive like therapy that is made for them. But for me, I was just very when I got to Project Walk when it was called that, I just was, like, welcomed with open arms, and I think when I was newly injured, that's exactly what I needed, and I didn't realize the kind of support I was getting, and then when I would go back home and I would go back home to Monterey and I wouldn't be around anyone else like me, I felt so alone and so isolated that I, like, craved that community aspect of being around, other people that were like me, and so every time I went down to the facility, I would be like, "Oh, I love it. I feel so normal. I feel like nobody's treating me differently. None of the therapists, none of the trainers, and nobody was treating me differently." And so it felt so good. And then I'd go home and it'd be so different. And so I realized how much my mindset changed at that point that I was like, wow, community is so important. Rather than I think I'm going to walk in or not, either way, I'm always going to be part of this community no matter what. Like, there's always going to be a piece of me that, like, I wanted more of that, and that's, like, when I started really, reaching out to other people and introducing myself and that sort of thing.
Welcome to the Be Perfect Foundation, a beacon of hope for those living with paralysis. We're a nonprofit organization on a mission to make a difference in the lives of hundreds of fathers, mothers, siblings, and friends. We provide direct financial and emotional aid. From medical necessities to guidance and support, we're here to help individuals on their road to recovery. With nearly $10 million raised and a 100% volunteer staff, your support goes a long way. Visit BePerfectFoundation.org to donate or find out how you can get involved. The Be Perfect Foundation, changing perceptions daily.
You seem like a very friendly person, very outgoing. And how much do you feel like of that comes from you being a dancer from before? Like you being a dancer all your whole entire life, growing up as a dancer, being an athlete. How do you feel like that now coincided with your recovery process and then with your likelihood of being in the community as well?
It's a great question. I feel like for me, I was always an open book since like I mean since like day one, but like since my injury, I feel like I've just always been an open book and always just wanted to like chat with everyone. Obviously like still to this day have like my shy moments, but I'm very like, hey, I'm Chelsea, what's up? Like nice to meet you. And the community, most of the community is very like open arms and very welcoming and very like, this is what happened to me, this is what I do, this is how I transfer, this is how I drive. Like everyone is like that. But I do think like getting into a facility was like the best thing that I could have done for myself in the very beginning because it really helped me like just be around other people that were like me. So, but I've always just been like an open book and I don't know. So, and then being on a reality show like that also like made me even more of an open book. So yeah, everyone kind of just like knew my story from their perspective. Yeah, so that was interesting.
The reality show, do you mean Ellen?
No, so I was on a reality show called Push Girls on the Sundance channel, which it's so crazy. It was about, oh my gosh, like 12 years ago when it aired. And it's the first reality show about women in wheelchairs and how we lived our lives. Still to this day, the only reality show. And it aired on Sundance Channel. I think it's still available on iTunes. And that was when I was like newly injured, newly getting back into the dance world and learning how to just put heels on as a woman in a wheelchair, and learning like that I could wear a skirt and still look cute, and learning all like the girly things. And, so yeah, did that for 2 years. We had 2 seasons on the Sundance Channel, and that also kind of catapulted me in the way that I had my story and like my thoughts and my life kind of out to the world, which is crazy.
And I know you still do it. I follow you on Instagram, and I've kind of seen over the last few weeks you've done a couple of the is it really cute or is she just
yes,
I think those are so cool. But no, it's like it is a cool thing. I think it addresses something that not a lot of people want to talk about the fact that are there different styles of clothing that you have to or should be wearing when you're in a wheelchair, those different facets of fashion when it comes to the disability.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's very interesting. Like when I first started doing it, I was like, I was showing fashion, I guess on my channel, but not like this. But I wanted to just see like how would it fit on my friend that's standing versus me, and like we're kind of the same size, but like skirts when you sit down, if you wear a small and then you're gonna sit down, it's gonna be like an extra small. So I always buy like a size bigger because then it's longer, because then if I wear a t-shirt, like there's always those little things that you think about. And then for shoes, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wear a boot, but I'm gonna buy a half a size bigger just so my toes don't like curl. There's like all those little things that you don't realize, especially when you're like newly injured, that I'm trying to figure out now.
When did like all those things start to kind of come together for you? Like at what point in your recovery process?
I think like for me, it was one of those things that I was just like, oh, I'll just deal with it. Like, oh, I always wore a size 7. So like I'll just always wear a size 7. But then as time goes on, you realize from really the people around you, the community that you're like always around, if you're going to a facility or going to events or you're just like in the community and you're involved, people will just be like, oh yeah, like I wear a size, 8 because it's easier for me to get my foot in. And you're going, oh, well, duh, of course I should just get a half size bigger or a full size bigger. Like, I think it just takes time to understand those things. And I think being newly injured is such a beautiful time in your life because you can just be this sponge and absorb as much as you can around me. And where I'm at now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be quote unquote celebrating almost 15 years. In February, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not newly injured anymore at all, but I'm so like settled in who I am as a person with a disability now that I think you're newly injured, you go through this time of being like a sponge, and then you go through this time of like processing of being like, okay, this isn't something that's just temporary. This could be something could be my forever. And then you get to the phase of like, this is who I am. I'm confident. I know who I am. I know what I can offer in life and in a relationship and independently, that like, and business wise, that I'm like, I'm good. And so I think there's kind of these 3 stages of life with a disability or being injured or being diagnosed that you kind of go through.
I think you've had a 4th too, and I think you might not have realized it, but from our perspective, like you went through all the first 3, but then you get into the stage of now you're teaching and you're going back into the community and you're seeing how you can give back and how you can teach people who might be still in stage 1 or stage 2 of, you have all these different people who are sponges and you're able to provide some of your experience and some of your knowledge to them so that maybe they don't have to learn the hard way like you had to for some things. Maybe you can be the first person to tell them like, look, I know you're a size 7, but trust me, get a size 7.5 or an 8 and it's just going to make your life so much better. And they might have to, they might be more willing to come to grips with that when they have somebody who has been in that experience for so long that you're sharing that knowledge with them. So
definitely.
Absolutely. I think, like, it's interesting too, even with being in the community, for me, I agree, there's that stage, and I think we're always gonna have that stage of, like, teaching. Because for me, I would when I started Rollettes team and Rollettes experience, I realized that, like, there were so many people that said, "Oh, I don't know how to transfer." And I'm like, "Girl, you are lower level injury than me. Like, we got to figure this out." And so it became that stage of like teaching someone, like, this is how I transfer. Or like my friend Steph, who went to Project Walk and the Perfect Step. She is like a quadriplegic. I call her super quad, but like she's a quadriplegic and she can like do all these things independently. And I'm like, okay, if I'm a para and my friend's a quad, then I'm gonna like show them also how she does it, and in hopes to like teach people. So I think there's that like really cool phase of life with a disability where you do get to start teaching people, and whether it's like fashion or transfers or travel or motherhood, whatever it is, like there's all these different stages.
Things that you can teach about. One of them you touched on, and it's a question that we get very often. Not sure if you'll have an answer for this, but pants in a wheelchair. Do you have like a go-to brand? Is there a certain style of pants that you're like, this is the best?
I mean, honestly, style I think changes a lot. Like there was this like phase where everyone was into like skinny jeans. I despise that now for me. I'm like, my little atrophied legs, I'm like, no, we're not going to highlight those. So for me, I'm like, all right, I love the Abercrombie jeans fit so good because I don't know, they just like hug in the right ways for me. But I think I used to be the type that would be like, I'll just buy it and I'll return it because I didn't want to like actually try things on at the store. And then I learned that I wouldn't return the things. So now I'm like, if I'm going to go and actually buy clothes, I'm like, I'm going to do all the necessary prep beforehand, like go pee real quick and then make sure I'm going to try on all the clothes. And then do that. That way I know exactly what I'm getting. And for me, I'm like, I'll spend money on clothing that is like I know is timeless. So like Abercrombie is always timeless, and I feel like it really is good for people in wheelchairs because they have like the regular length and then they have the tall length, and I always get the tall length because I'm sitting down, and when you sit down, your pants rise up, so you have that like gap. And so I always try and get longer versions of any pants.
See, like I wouldn't have even thought about doing that, but once you said it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like that's so.
Yeah. How about for shoes?
Yeah.
Are there any like certain shoes that you like to wear, or certain shoes you'd like to stay away from, or any brands that you like or recommend for anybody?
So as far as shoes, I love tennis shoes because I feel like you can style them anyway. But as far as for all the girls out there listening, always go for a thick heel if you can. Like that is like my ride or die. But during the summer, I think like always making sure you have a strap around the back ankle. It just keeps things on when you're like trying to transfer in and out of the car, transfer in the bathroom. You don't have to worry about like always putting something on. I know some people that literally will wear nothing on the back of their heel, and I'm like, why? You just have to then like, put them back on every single time you transfer. And then boots. Always look for the boots that have like an inside zipper. A few of my cowgirl boots that I have, I've went to like a leather store and I was like, can you put a zipper in this? And it's like $20. So I've done that with a lot of my boots as well. So yeah.
I didn't even know you could do that. So you can go to the store and ask them to put a zipper onto the boots and add it on.
You have to go specifically to a leather store, like, and they'll stretch out your cowgirl boots and then put a leather, like a zipper in.
That's so smart.
Interesting.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to get some use out of that.
Yeah. So you're a business owner. That you started the founder of the Rollettes. Can you speak a little bit about the founding process of the Rollettes, how that went for you, and then what motivated you to want to start that?
Yeah, it was completely accidental, honestly. So I had this idea when I was in the hospital. I was like, I still want to dance. And then I saw a video of a girl dancing in her chair with Snoop Dogg. And my dad, brought the laptop in and was like, check this out. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't know about it. Like, we'll see. I don't know. And I went home. I danced in my chair with my high school dance team. My dad went and got like 14 wheelchairs. And then my friends got to like try out how to dance in a chair with me. And then we performed for my high school and surprised them. And that's the moment that I was like reignited with dance. And I think like about a year after that, I was on the show. And I was like, oh, I want to like start my own dance team. I want to start it like of girls that are in Northern California. So I reached out to girls that I had met and girls that I was following. Seven of them flew, or six of them flew to Monterey, and we all just like had a whole weekend of dancing and literally like rolling around Target in my hometown and just things like that. And we went out to lunch and had girl time and had sleepover. And then at the end of the weekend, we had a big fundraiser and we raised money to like go speak at schools. And then we put videos out on social media and we started getting inquiries about like, hey, will you come perform here? Will you come perform there? And then just kind of the word just got out there that there was this wheelchair dance team. So that's kind of how that started. And then that weekend, we kind of made it as like a get together every year. We'd just do like a once a year reunion of all of us getting back together. And each year we just I invited other girls to come and hang out and see if they wanted to dance with me and everyone else. And then we had about 32 girls. When I moved to Los Angeles in 2014, we had about like, I don't know, maybe 12. And then 2015, I had like 14, 2016, maybe 15, 16, kind of grew. 2018 or 2017, I had 32 girls. And then my manager at the time was like, hey, like, I'll get a ballroom if you get 100 girls there. And I literally looked at him and I was like, you're crazy. I don't know 100 people in wheelchairs, let alone women, let alone that want to come to Los Angeles, that want to dance. And he was like, just try, put it on social media. And I was like, all right. And then that next year we got 115 from 14 different countries. And that's when I knew like, oh, this is real. People want this. And that's kind of how we started the dance team. And then now, which is our nonprofit, the Rollettes Experience.
So I have two questions kind of about that. First one, okay, so you told us like the story, but who and how did you come up, or who came up with and how did Rollettes come about?
So the Rollettes dance team, I mean, I literally told my dad, I was like, I want to see a ballroom full of women dancing in wheelchairs. And he was like, okay, like let's invite people. Like let's invite people that you're following or that you've met once in a while. So I remember in the car like a few times, he was like, call up Maria. You met her, like, you know, she's newly injured. She's been injured for like 3 months. Like call her. And my dad her dad reached out to my dad on social media, and then I got her number. So I just called her up. I remember I was driving home one day with my dad and I was like, hi, this is Chelsie. I want to see if we could come out there to Sacramento and like hang out and meet. Like, I'd love to invite you to be on this dance team I want to start. And she's like, okay. Like, it was just like that. And then I met Mia from the show. I invited her. I met Ali Stroker from going down to another event and invited her. And then I met Kate. Like, there was a lot of girls that I met throughout the process. I just called up and I was like, I kind of want to start a dance team. Do you want to come hang out? And all 6 of them were like, sure. So it just honestly started like that.
But like
trying, honestly.
But like Rollettes, the word, how did you come up with that?
So no, it was called just dance. It was just a dance boot camp that I started back in 2012. And then my dad and I ran a nonprofit called Walk and Roll Foundation. He was like, oh, we'll have the dance team part of the nonprofit. And so it was called Walk and Roll Dance Team. And then when we shut down the nonprofit, I was like, well, I still want to have a dance team. And I always wanted it to be called Rollettes because I was just so, I don't know, roll and then ets because it's girly. I was like, put them together, Rollettes. And so for like 2 years before I changed the name officially in 2016, I was like, I really like the name Rollettes. Like roll is obviously chairs, ets because it's girly. Like so about 2 years, I was like, I want it to be changed. And then I officially made it Rollettes in 2016.
Wow. So this idea goes all the way back to 2012. So over 12 years ago. No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that crazy to hear?
Yeah, I feel old.
No, that's super awesome. I think it's such a great thing that you guys are doing, and I'm excited to hear more about it and to learn more about what Rollettes does. And can you kind of elaborate a little more about the Rollettes experience? You said that's a nonprofit, correct? that you guys have?
Yeah. So I honestly we had a nonprofit and I was like, I don't really like, I don't know. It was just too much and there was too much things we were trying to do. And so I just recently this year made Rollettes Experience a nonprofit. From 2016 until literally like this year, it has always been a business, but I have never made a dime off of Rollettes Experience. I've never made really a dime off of Rollettes. And like that, like it's always been my thing where I'm like, I don't want to make any money off of Rollettes Experience because it's really my passion project. Everything that comes in literally goes straight out to make the event happen. And it's always operated as a nonprofit, but we officially like filed for our status and everything. So we are called Rollettes Foundation, and the Rollettes Experience is the event that we host every year. So, yeah.
Okay. And I think a lot of our listeners do know exactly what it is, but can you go into a little bit more depth of it's a whole weekend, right? So is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but now this year, 2025 will be Wednesday through Sunday, which is
Nice.
loco.
Okay.
Loco.
Can you walk us through what each day looks like for somebody who would,
Yeah.
Want to?
And what are the dates?
course.
Like what month, what days in the year?
Yeah, use the
Wait.
Yeah.
shout them out.
You're really testing me. I'm like, what are the dates? So it's actually July 9th through the 13th. Yeah, July 9th through the 13th, 2025. And Connor and I started a talent showcase as well. So July 9th is our Boundless Talent Showcase, where we have anyone, all ages, all gender, all disabilities that gets up on a stage and they get judged to win all these prizes. Kind of like a dance, like a talent show, dance showcase, dance competition, but they can do singing, acting, monologues, dancing, group dances, trios, duos, all of that. And that's on July 9th. And then our official Rollettes Experience will start July 10th through the 13th. So the Rollettes Experience is our like women's empowerment weekend for women and children with disabilities. The idea started back in 2012 and then really grew 2018 a lot. And every year is different. Every year, like sometimes like we have different themes throughout the year, but it started with just a few dance classes and breakout groups. And now it is the largest women's empowerment weekend out there in the world for people with disabilities, women. And so we have dance classes, we have panels, we have kids classes, we have arts classes, we have different like groups that meet up throughout the whole weekend. We have like a parents meetup, coffee chat, we have parents dance class now. And then we also have we had an award show, but I think we're gonna bring that back. We'll see. And then we have like a big party. So like we've done a circus theme, we've done a Y2K theme. Who knows what we're going to do this year in 2025. And then we always end with a pool party, but it's literally like the biggest sleepover you could ever think of. It's that weekend and it's at the Sheraton LAX, July 9th through the 13th.
I was just going to ask where it's at. That's cool. Okay. At the Sheraton LAX. Awesome.
Yeah, you guys got to come party with us. It'll be fun.
All right. So we're allowed to go?
Of course. Yeah.
All right. I know a bunch of our clients, they go almost every year and they all talk about it and they always say they have such a great time. It. And it's another opportunity for them to get that sense of community that we kind of talked about, right? And I think
absolutely.
It's not as common as I think a lot of us would like who are involved with the community. So
yeah, it's also one of those things that like, for me, I think there's a lot of boxes being checked. We have recovery facilities, we have like the sports, but there was nothing for like the girlies that want to come and just hang out and network. And so if you don't want to do sports and you want to meet other people, like this, event is for you. And you also don't have to dance. Like we have a lot of girls that are just like, oh, I want to come and just meet people. Like there's a lot of people that don't take the dance classes and they just go to the seminars or the panels or like the big parties at night. So it really just depends, but it's a really great opportunity to network and also meet a lot of people that maybe you follow on social media.
Such a great thing that you're doing. Good.
Yeah. Sorry. Speaking of social media, you're obviously somebody who has grown a healthy following on social media and you have a good amount of influence. Can you talk about your experience and kind of how that grew? And I'm sure it wasn't like a, overnight thing, but was there like a certain post that you did that you were like, oh, like, I can start to actually reach a good amount of people with this? Or how was it? Did you go on the Ellen show and you blew up after that? Or can you talk about that experience?
You're a business owner in the retail, restaurant, hospitality, or petroleum industry. You have ambitious plans for multi-site remodels, refreshing your brand, and integrating the latest technology, but you need a partner you can trust to bring those visions to life. Enter Apex Imaging Services. With a legacy dating back to 1949, we've been at the forefront of innovation and transformation for over 7 decades. From licensed general contracting in 48 states to cutting-edge tech solutions, we've got you covered. Our services include everything from interior and exterior refreshes, open and closed remodels, and technology integrations, to 3D virtual tours, data analytics, and cloud security for Fortune 500 companies. But it's not just about what we do, it's how we do it. We're dedicated to quality, value, and efficiency. We listen to your needs, tailor solutions to your goals, and deliver results on time and on budget. So whether you're planning your next remodel, seeking to enhance your brand, or embracing the digital age, Apex Imaging Services is your partner for success. Visit apeximagingservices.com to learn more. Apex Imaging Services, your vision, our expertise.
Yeah, and honestly, I have this like weird relationship with social media now, because when I first started social media and like really just sharing a lot, it was when Instagram didn't even have video. Like, that's how far back it goes. I know you guys are like, "Wait, what?" But it really didn't. It didn't have, it was just photos. And I just shared photos of like the dance camp that I was throwing, and it I really started heavily in social media in 2014 when I was going to dance classes and I was the only person in a wheelchair going, and I would just post videos online. And then I saw other people in the community that were sharing like dance concept videos, and I was like, I was living in LA here, and I was like, I want to be in those concept videos. That would be so fun. Like, and no one was inviting me to be in them. And I was like going to classes and I wasn't meeting any friends because nobody wanted to talk to me because I was different. And I just kept going back to those classes. I was like, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to train. I'm going to focus on me and myself and I in the mirror. And I'm just going to get as good as I can, because I would be dancing in LA if I wasn't paralyzed. This is what I would want to be doing. And so I would share videos. And then I remember there was one video, I was like, I want to hire a choreographer. I want to hire dancers. And I want to make a video on Hollywood Boulevard. And I did that, and I went and filmed it, almost got kicked out, almost got arrested, because you're not supposed to film on Hollywood Boulevard, and we literally, so that was a whole thing. But that video ended up going viral and hitting almost 7 million views on one video, and a bunch of press picked it up, and they were just like, "We wanna know who you are," and it just kind of catapulted from there, and I got my first brand deal in 2015, a year after, and that's when I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm just going to keep building social media. Like, I didn't just start social media like, 2 years ago. Like, I've been really on it and sharing my life since really really since 2010, but really since 2014 when I made that video, and I wanted to show the world that I wanted to be a dancer. And that's how all of this started. All of it.
I was just thinking that about like how you turned your passion into something that's been so good for the community and like everyone coming together. And this literally comes from like a passion of you being young and then learning how to dance and then continuing carrying that on throughout your whole entire life. So I think it's fantastic what you're doing. Is there a specific like age range that usually attends these events? Like, is it anybody? Is it from pediatrics to 90?
Yeah.
What's the
So everyone thinks that Rollettes experience is just for people in their 20s, and it's absolutely not. It's literally for anyone that wants to come hang out. So we have girls as young as 3 years old, and we've had women that as old as 70. And I'm like, please come. I feel like if we have a lot more older women that come, then we can have a lot more wisdom and a lot more guidance on those like personal topics of like relationships and dating and giving birth and like all of that and like living life sustainably as someone with a disability long term. And then also the little ones, like, of course they need it too, because they probably just see people, with disabilities on a phone or a TV or an iPad. But then to be able to be in the room and get to talk with other, women with disabilities that are like them, whether it's a spinal cord injury or cerebral palsy or a chronic illness, like it honestly changes you. So I always had the saying, like, you roll into the room and everyone's at eye level, but there's so many other people that aren't just eye level that come that maybe use a cane or maybe use a walker. And it's really cool. And it's just developed into this room of so many incredibly powerful women with disabilities. And it's really life changing. So yeah.
Has there been a turning point? Like, if you look back now from when you started the Rollettes and then now to today, has there been like a turning point that was the most challenging aspect for you, that you were able to get over that hurdle and then continue, starting Rollettes and continuing your experience of getting the Rollette experience as well?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Every year is hard. Every year is hard because, I mean, being a woman with a disability and running a business and now running a nonprofit, I mean, we are launching our first official big, like, nonprofit fundraiser as Rollettes Foundation next month. And I'm like terrified. But I've had companies that look at me and they're like, that's cute. And I'm like, this isn't just cute. Like, this is serious. People need this. Like, and then I see all these people that are super successful that run nonprofits that don't have disabilities, but it's for the disabled community. I'm like, man, how can I just raise like, $100,000? That's all we need, just to put this on. And it's very challenging. And especially because, like, it's not my job. I don't get paid to do this. So I have to do my job on the side while also running like an international experience for people. And honestly, if we shut down, there would be riots. So I'm like, I have no choice. But there has been a lot of times where I've been like, I can't keep going. This is so hard. Like, I put a lot of money into it. And I just can't wait for the day that I don't have to, but it's my passion project and I know it helps so many people. And I feel like I'm on the road to making it financially sustainable for the event. And I'm hoping and praying that one day it happens.
We are as well. I think it sounds like you're definitely on the right track. And so this fundraiser you're talking about, it's in December?
Yeah, so we haven't launched it at all, but it's happening December 3rd. We're going to do a week-long fundraiser online. So, yeah.
What are those?
Is that a coincidence for starting on Giving Tuesday? Or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to start Giving Tuesday.
Is it
Yeah.
like a telethon? Like, are you doing a week-long live stream or?
No, so we've done that before to raise money for Rollettes Experience, but it's just like we're gonna get our ambassadors involved and we're just gonna like push the fundraiser and be like, this is what we need to raise, like help us get to, this number. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not the best at fundraising. It makes me uncomfortable asking people for money, but I know there's a lot of people out there that want to give and want to support. So yeah.
Definitely. A lot of people are going to reap the benefits of all this too, and of the experience of what you guys are doing for the people. So I think it's amazing. And I had a question about also that whole experience of what you guys are doing as well. This is a yearly event that you guys put on for the Rollettes Experience, correct? Have you guys ever pondered about making this a 2-time-a-year thing? Is that's a lot? I know you said it's already a lot, but is there anything that like you are looking forward to as far as like making this, something different or another Rollettes experience, or what's the plans for the future?
Yeah, so I personally really want to have a East Coast, West Coast. I think that would be amazing. Yeah, so I think our 4-year plan is hopefully to have a convention center here in LA. But if or we do East Coast, West Coast before that. So that's kind of like my long-term goal is doing but I think by then it might be co-ed. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm giving you guys like the tea right now, but I don't know if it'll stay all female, but I think it'll be a female focus. But then I think maybe one maybe 2025, we might open up one day just for guys, just to kind of test the waters and see who comes. But when that does happen, if there are any guys that want to come hang out, you better show up, because we're counting on those numbers to see if it's even something that we can do in 2025, 2026. So
Very
yeah.
cool.
So you heard it, guys. You guys better be there this year.
You better get there.
Yeah, it's a party.
Opportunity to network and obviously meet a lot of very motivated women.
I have a question about the international experience, because I think you said earlier 14 different countries is what, right? Is that what you said earlier? Do you know how many different, people from different countries are going to be there this year, or what they're last year, or now what the number is looking like?
So last year, I think we had 13 countries, but what I'm finding is like every other year we have an influx, and then like it kind of fluctuates. So internationally, each country like usually will be every other year. But our biggest country that comes is the UK. Like that's our biggest following. I haven't even announced this yet, but we are planning to go to the UK in April. But it's not going to be a Rollettes experience. We're going to just do like a day-long event, but we are going to the UK. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Kind of transitioning a little bit, but you were just currently overseas.
I was.
Correct, right? You want to talk a little bit about that experience and maybe how it came about and how it was?
Yeah. So I always had, the last few years, I told my manager, Joe, I was like, I would love to do the Paralympics. Like that would be so amazing. A dream come true, honestly. And then Paris on top of that. That would be incredible. Also, one of my girls, Kaylee, that was there with me, is leaving my house right now. But it was literally a dream come true. I think they found me like on social media. I don't know, probably these days. But I did a few Zooms with them, and then they were like, we want you to be part of the opening ceremony. So I flew out about 4 times with one of my girls, Kaylee, who's on Rollettes as well. And we had rehearsals for 2 weeks each trip. So flew out to Paris, had the most incredible time. Like I say, I studied abroad this summer, but I don't know any French at all. But it was incredible. It was hard to keep a secret, but we ended up performing this year at the Paris opening ceremony, and I will honestly treasure that for the rest of my life. And I learned a lot and had made some amazing friends, and hopefully I can bring that knowledge to LA 28 this year, or in 2028, when the Paralympics are going to be here in our town.
Do you have aspirations of performing there as well? Is that
absolutely
touch on, or?
Absolutely. Well, we have not been hired for that. We haven't even been contacted about that yet, but I'm hoping that we are the team that they are going to call, and hopefully I can, hire all of the people that are here in LA that want to be a part of it. I personally would love to be part of the production side. There's a lot of things that I would like to do differently that I experienced, and elevate, and I really want to be on the production side for, the disabled talent in LA 28. So, and then if the Rollettes can perform, and that would be honestly a dream. I have so many ideas of what we can do.
Awesome. What were some things that went really well in Paris when you went there? And then what were some things that were like really challenging that you want to change for the 2028 Olympics?
I mean, that's kind of a vault, you know what I mean? I'm like, people, you gotta hire me for those questions. No, but the things that went very well was the choreographer and the whole team was incredible. The accommodations they made was amazing. And they really listened. Like the choreographer since day one listened to exactly what we went through as people with disabilities and wanted to really highlight our experiences. And that has never been done before. I mean, he did studies. He really talked to us about our experiences being a person with the tapping on the head and the all of those little moments. And he just really elevated everything. Alexandra Ekman is he's incredible. And then, I mean, I don't know, they were so accommodating.
How was the accessibility in Paris? And then along with that, kind of how was your trip experience, taking away the fact that you were there for the Paralympics and it was this life-changing experience that we were able to go through, how was the rest of the trip?
So Paris is not accessible. But when I was there every time, like the first time I went out there, the first week, I just went from hotel to rehearsal. The second week, my family flew out. And so I like kind of did these little outings, but it was only at nighttime because I had rehearsal from like 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. every day during the week. And then I only had one weekend was there. And then so it was kind of weird. But when I did get to see Paris, it's not like a place that I would go by myself with a disability, specifically with a wheelchair, because there were a lot of steps to get into places. And when I did go out by myself and rolled around the hotel's like area, it was like really hard. The cobblestone sucks, obviously, but then they're like,
I was gonna say it's not. That's kind of why I asked. I've been there, and it's not new architecture. It's all very old. It's cobblestone streets. That's getting around by the metro. The traffic is very bad, and the streets are like extra small and condensed, so you can't like get through. And that was kind of why I asked, because I kind of figured that was going to be the experience, but I wasn't too sure, and I wasn't sure which part of Paris you were in.
Yeah.
So, how about traveling for you guys?
So traveling international, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, they flew us first class. So I have no complaints with that at all. But it was obviously like really hard to like be in one spot basically the whole time. But I'm very thankful that they got to fly us first class because we got to lay down. And so when we did get there, literally the next day we had rehearsals. So if I had to fly regular, like economy, which I always fly, I don't ever get to fly first class. But if I had to do economy, I would probably need an extra day to just recoup and stretch out and just like give my body a break, because sitting down for, 14-hour flight is very brutal. So I am very thankful that we got to
What
lay
would
down.
be your biggest tips and tricks for international travel for somebody in a wheelchair?
Pack all of your like bathroom essentials on like as a carry-on. If you can bring someone with you, obviously bring someone. Give the flight attendant a heads up, like, hey, I'm gonna need to use the aisle chair. Make sure you guys have it like ready to go. This is my seat, like know where I am. And then I would just plan out, for me, I plan out like how much water I'm drinking the whole time versus like how often I want to use the restroom and have to like transfer and do all that. So I usually will like push it to every 5 hours. So it's one of those things that you just kind of have to like trial and error, I guess. But letting the flight attendants know ahead of time, like, I'm gonna need the aisle chair. Can you give it to me in like 4 hours? That way they can plan like before or after food. That's a big thing, especially international.
It's kind of off topic based off like what we just talked about in your international travel, but as far as when it comes to performing, is there anything that you do in preparatory for the performing, is like physically for your body? Like, is there any stretching that you do beforehand? And you said there's obviously choreography and there's a routine, but how do you get your body prepped and prepared for that? Because I'm sure the dancing is very physical and it takes, a lot of physical adherence to do that. So what's your preparatory look?
Yeah. Honestly, so before I became a mom, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point, but before I became a mom, I went to the gym twice a week for about 2.5 years at 7 a.m. like period. That was my non-negotiable. And that helped me with like all of the dancing and prepping like no other. That was incredible for me. But now being a mom, obviously things are a little different, but I think making sure that I have time to just put headphones on and like listen to the choreography and like envision it is the biggest thing. And just, practice makes perfect, and practice makes progress. Not perfect, but progress. So
yeah. Visualization. I think that's something that we touch on a lot here. Is being able to get mental reps in is a big thing.
Welcome to The Perfect Step, a beacon of hope for those living with paralysis. We're not just another recovery program. We're pioneers in exercise-based recovery, transforming lives every day. Our mission is clear: to provide an improved quality of life through intense exercise-based recovery, education, research, and development. We treat conditions such as spinal cord injury, stroke, Parkinson's, and more. What sets us apart? Our clients often experience an improved level of function, sometimes even below their entry level. Imagine the possibilities when exercise is medicine. We're wheelchair-free, focusing on load-bearing activities to enhance function, bone density, muscle mass, sensation, and circulation. And it doesn't stop there. Our clients often reduce their medications and complications. But we're not just a program. We're a community of support. You'll meet peers who understand your journey, along with specialists dedicated to your recovery. Visit theperfectstep.com today and take the first step toward hope, health, and healing. The Perfect Step, where recovery begins.
Well, you touched on it. I think it's a perfect time to kind of dive in. You're a mom now. You have been for almost 2 years. However much you're comfortable going into your whole experience of becoming a mom and being a mom, and how you've dealt with all of the adversity that obviously comes with that. Kind of want to give us the background on that?
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I never pictured this being like me being a mom with a disability, until I became disabled. And so I think it's a topic that isn't talked about enough because well, actually, I have no idea why. But for me, when we got pregnant, I was just like, all right, let's go for it. Like, didn't know anything about anything. I was like, let's just, we'll figure it out as we go. Morning sickness is not a thing. It's an all day sickness thing. Like, first trimester is rough. But I loved being pregnant. Like, I absolutely loved it. And, yeah, it was amazing. I worked out 7 a.m. twice a week all through my pregnancy until I was about 36 weeks pregnant, and the doctor was like, you don't have to work out. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when like she really grew, and I was like, I'm so glad I took these 4 weeks off. And yeah, but my birth story is like, it kind of sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I, plan to do a C-section. I was like, all right, like, but I was like, if I can, go in and push, like, let's go for it. So I had a plan B was to do a C-section. And I was like, I could push, like, I can do this. Like, I know other people that are my level of injury that can. And so I was like, all right, we're going to go in. I labored for 14 hours with no pain meds, because they were like,
I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask the stupid question.
that's okay.
You're paralyzed. How was the sensation going through that birthing process? Like, how was it different for you?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't to being able to do it while you weren't, but
Yeah.
do you get what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, of course. So, no question is stupid, by the way. Like, we're all learning here. Like, I had to ask a lot of questions. So for me, I call it like I have a built-in epidural, I guess you could say. I don't know. Because I don't know what it feels like to have an epidural. But a lot of my friends that have given birth are like, oh, I know what it feels like to not feel my legs. And I'm like, not really the same thing, but okay. But for me, like, I labored more in my back. So like I had the most excruciating back pain when I was in labor, for 14 hours. And then you just feel your whole stomach just tighten and then release. So I'm a T10, so I can feel like all my stomach, but I also can feel a lot like lower too. So my sensation's like a little different, I guess. I don't know.
That's spotty throughout.
Yeah, very spotty, especially like through my lower stomach area to my thighs. But when I was in labor, it was incredibly painful. But I think it's not the same as someone to labor if they didn't have a spinal cord injury. So I don't know. And then labored for 14 hours, couldn't dilate past like 7. And they were like, all right, we got to, give you an epidural, but we have to put you to sleep. And I was like, absolutely not happening. I'm gonna fight you on this. Like, we're gonna keep going till the end. I'm not gonna be put to sleep. It's not happening. I've never heard that have to happen with
Reason why they said they would have to put you to sleep?
well, they were nervous about my rods in my back. So I'm fused from L1 to L5. And they were like, where your rods are is exactly where we need your like vertebrae to like open up. And I was like, cool. Well, you're not putting me to sleep. Like, that's not happening. So what's your next plan? And they were like, they literally had to find an anesthesiologist that was comfortable with trying to like give me an epidural. And so I was like, great, I will still be in labor and you're going to find that person because I'm going to be awake for my daughter's birth. Like, are you kidding me? And I didn't know any other like paraplegic that had to be put to sleep for birth. Like I knew like certain cases that like, a high level injury just for safety, like they had to be like, I get that. But I was like, no, no, not happening. And so I labored more and more. And then one anesthesiologist came in and they were like, well, we can try. And I was like, great. I just need someone to be able to try. Like, let's go and give me that. And so went into the operating room and I was like, my other non-negotiables, my husband has to be in the room. Like that's not he's going to be in the room no matter what. So they were like, they fought me on that. And I was like,
I'm just gonna say
I'm going to win.
I fought you on that because I
Yeah.
I just went through this 5 months ago now. My wife just gave birth and they kicked me out of the room for the epidural. I believe me, I tried because she was like, "You're not leaving. You're staying here."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yep.
"You heard her," and they were like, "No,
Yeah.
10 minutes max." Yada. And I was like,
Yeah.
You're gonna make her like be alone." And they're like, "Yeah, it's like policy. Like we have to."
Yep.
So I understand that part, and I unfortunately lost my battle.
No, so did my husband. Like they were like, "You're going to the operating room. Like we just need 10 minutes." And I was like, "Okay." So literally, the nurse is standing there. Mind you, I can't sit up without something behind me. So I'm like sitting there, literally in labor, like trying to breathe through it as they're trying to find, like, stick a needle in my back, trying to find a place. I'm literally starting to now like throw up because I'm in so much pain. So I'm literally like about to pass out, throwing up. And I'm like, and then I looked at the girl. It was after like 10 minutes and I was like, put me out. I literally could not handle the pain. And so they laid me down and put me out. And my husband got to come in and like see me before I went to sleep. And yeah, I lost it, but I fought till the end.
Yeah.
I fought till the end.
Matters.
Were you having,
14 hours. Wow.
AD spasms. How was your body reacting through all of these different experiences?
So I actually have a birth vlog out, so if anyone wants to like watch it that's listening. But my body, it was just like those contractions that were like really in my back area, and it was so incredibly painful. I didn't have a lot of spasms. I didn't have AD because I'm a T10. But it was just a lot of pain in my back, and the Pitocin makes it worse. So yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
sorry, I knew they were T10, but there was a couple of experiences that I had read about where people were giving birth who were lower level injuries, and they said that even though they felt like they hadn't experienced AD in the birthing process, they had something like what AD is normal.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I was kind of just curious on if that was something that you had maybe experienced.
How long after they put you out did you end up giving birth? Did your daughter end up coming out?
I don't know. I mean, they gotta cut a few layers, so I don't know, but my husband filmed the whole thing, so I have it all on film. Yeah.
Question on that: did your water ever break?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I think they had to go in and they had to break it. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
experience
no,
with
thank
us.
you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
Honestly, I'm really an open book because I feel like there wasn't enough talked about with spinal cord injury and giving birth because I was kind of like, all right, I'm just going to go into it in the dark and see what happens. And I'm along for the ride. But I think my biggest thing that I could give anyone that is looking to maybe one day be a parent is ask questions. If you're a mom and you want to carry your own child, ask questions. My friend Allie Stroker, she was like very adamant about making sure that she like found a doctor that like has given birth with someone with a spinal cord injury before. And I think that's so smart because she just felt so much more comfortable going into it. And I had a lot of unknowns that I was like, I'm going to just fight my way to it and I'm going to fight my way to get what I want. And I ended up not being able to. And I think when I am ready to do it again, I really want to find someone who will maybe give me the epidural who can figure out how to, because I would like to be awake for my next child's birth one day.
I was gonna say, is there plans for another one? Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I'm in the toddler stage right now with my little one, and listen, running a business and being an entrepreneur, I'm sure Hal understands this too. Like, and with a disability on top of it, it's not easy, that's for sure. But I would honestly, I would have 10 more of my daughter if I could, because she's literally incredible. Like, I feel like every parent, feels that way, but for me, I'm like, I would have more.
Well, not to give too many spoilers, but I'm not sure if you know this information, but Hal actually is on his way to have number 2, so.
What?
Yeah, they're expecting, I think, sometime in April, baby number 2, so.
I had no idea.
Has he released the gender? Do you know?
I mean, do you know it?
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, has he put it on Instagram?
Publicly? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if he said that. So
Oh my gosh.
it'll be posted for a couple weeks anyways.
Yeah. So by the time this comes out, everyone's going to know
by the
anyways.
time, everybody.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna text him. I'm be like, the guys told me. Congratulations.
So
No, but thanks for sharing the experience though too, because like I think there's so many question marks for a lot of our clients. I'm like, what's that process like? Can I carry a baby? Like, and what's great about it is that we had another actually recording of a podcast with another individual, one of our clients that carried a baby throughout the process, and she had a similar story but very different in many ways too. But she explained her the whole process of what it was like for her. So it's really good for now our audience to hear your perspective with it, and then hear her perspective too, and then kind of put those two together. So.
Yeah, and also the beautiful thing about this day and age is social media is incredible when it comes to that, because I mean, there are so many guys and girls that have a disability out there that are sharing their experience and showing how they get like their child into the car, and how they get their car seat out, and how they put the stroller together. Like, you can be a parent with a disability, and I think social media is proving that. So if anyone has any questions, please like reach out to me. But yeah, I think social media is a great tool.
I think it's not only the disability community who has those questions, but this could be a stretch, but I think there's probably a lot of people who might not want to get in relationships with people with disabilities because they might think like, oh, I can't ever have kids if I do that. And that's the case.
They don't know.
Yeah, it's just, so I think there's that kind of goes into it too.
Absolutely.
Well, Chelsie, how or what, I guess what would be the better way to ask this, but what would you say has been your greatest resource for learning about the spinal cord injury community throughout your, I don't want to call it tenure, but
your recovery journey.
Your recovery journey.
Yeah.
Podcast, your own personal experiences, a YouTube channel.
Honestly, I mean, everything changes so often. Like, YouTube was popular, and then Instagram and TikTok, and then like everything kind of changes. And I think the one thing that has stayed consistent for me when it comes to getting the best resources possible is the community, because no one else knows better what we need than the community. You know what I mean? So I think like my biggest advice to anybody listening out there is to make sure that you stay involved in the community, no matter if it's recovery center or like a surfing event, sports event, women's empowerment event, like whatever it is, like stay involved in the community. And if you're newly injured and you're scared to get into the community, like just meet one person, because like you can learn. So I learned so much from the women that like on Push Girls, the reality show, like they just took me in under their wings and like embraced me and taught me how to just live a life independently, and like, catheterize on my own, and like get dressed in my chair, and like all the things of being independent, like they taught me how to do. And I like will forever cherish that, because that like catapulted me to be independent and to be not only physically dependent, because there is like, obviously physically independent with a disability and mentally independent, but like I think mentally independent is way more important than the physical part of it, because the physical part you can overcome. You can have a caregiver, you can have family, you can have people help you get dressed and help you do those things, but it's the mental side of this disability that will really, really get you. And I think if you find people that will embrace you and that will teach you how to be, and like give you the skills to be mentally independent, then like you're set up for success.
It's a fantastic piece of advice. I love it. Is there any mentors that you think of that come to mind as far as you going back to the process, even all the way down to Push Girls? Is there anybody that comes to mind that you want to shout out, that you feel like they were there for you the whole time and helped you with a lot of that process? Or do you feel like it was just like a lot of people in total?
I mean, I feel like if I named people, I would probably forget, because I know so many people. But I mean, just like to think about a few, I mean, definitely Ali Stroker. Like has always been one of my ride or die girls. Hal Hargrave has always given me all the best resources, and really him and his family have believed in me since like day one when I moved down here. I mean, Auntie Angel, who's no longer with us, like taught me how to do a wheelie spin in my chair. Tiffany Adams, Angela Rockwood, like so many people that have been injured longer than me, but then also I have a lot of people that inspire me that haven't been injured as long as me. So the community is amazing, honestly.
Yes, that's awesome. Really important factor.
We got just 2 more questions. Thank you so much again for taking your busy schedule. For somebody who is new to the community, what is one simple tip that you would give any person? Say, they're still on the hospital bed a couple of days after their incident, and you want to give them a piece of advice on the way they can best live their life now. What would that be?
Breathe. Just breathe. I mean, that to start, because like your whole world is flipped upside down when you're in the hospital. I think the biggest thing, I mean, it's always so smart to be a sponge all the time and just absorb all the information. But I think if I can think of one advice, I would say is don't say no. I would say always say yes until you can't anymore. Try new things, meet up with those people that want to get coffee with you. Like try to get in and out of bed on your own, even if the doctor's like you're never going to be able to. Like just try. Get people around you that want to try with you. But that's my biggest thing is just say yes. Try everything, do everything you can, and you're going to learn and be a sponge. So I guess that's 3 things, but
Love it. Is there anything that you were told that you weren't going to be able to do that you overcame and that you proved them wrong?
I mean, I think there's a few things, but I think the biggest like physical part that I think makes the most sense, that I was able to do, I guess, on my own was when I was in the hospital, they put like a RTI bike, what is it called? The bikes that like put stem into your legs.
Yes.
What is it called?
Yep.
RTI bike. Okay. It's been a little while. But they literally put on my legs when I was newly injured, and my muscle did not contract. And I remember the PT was like, "Oh, it's not going to work on you. Like you don't need to use this." And so I was like, "Okay, like I can't just try." And then I remember I went to a Project Walk facility when it was Project Walk then. So basically like a perfect step. And I remember I got on the bike and my leg contracted. And it was like 2 years, 3 years, no, it was like, I think a year after they got me on the bike, and it contracted. And I was like, "Oh my God, they said it would never happen." So I think it's one of those things that like, even though, there's the clinical side of things, right? In the hospital that doctors are going to be like, "You're this and that's it." And like then there's the recovery side of things where you get to like actually investigate and try new things through, the perfect step where like you can try the RTI bike. You can try to lay on your back and kick out your legs and see what happens. Like you can try, like that's the thing that I think the hospital lacks. And I think that's like the beauty of the perfect step and like recovery facilities, that like you get the opportunity to keep trying and proving them wrong. So yeah.
Love it. Gold. Gold. All these answers has been just amazing. One last question for you. We're focusing lately at TPS about people reinventing their life. Okay, so what is one way that you feel like you've reinvented your life, or you've seen somebody else reinvent their life on their own?
Wow, that's a really great question. Reinvent our life. Um, I've seen a lot of things. Um, and a lot of people do things that like I'm sure they would never think that they could, whether it's being a parent, whether it's running a business or whatever. But I think for me, I think, I never in a million years, if you asked me when I was 10 years old or even 16 years old, what do you want to do when you grow up? I probably would have never thought I want to run a wheelchair dance team and a talent showcase for people with disabilities and a women's empowerment weekend for people with disabilities. That was never like on my radar. So I think the way that I reinvented my life is just honestly going with the flow. I saw that I needed something. I saw that I needed community in the dance world, and I wanted to create that because it wasn't there. And so I saw a niche that needed to be filled, and I just pursued it, and I haven't stopped.
With a whole lot of saying yes and not a lot of no, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that is how I did it, because I always said yes. Mind you, I did get exhausted and I did get burnt out, and I still get burnt out, and I still sometimes have no idea what I'm doing, but at least I'm doing it. And that's what I tell myself all the time.
Yep. And you're still a sponge. That's awesome. I love it. Well, Chelsie, thank you so much for all your insight, for being such a great guest, and for taking the
Thank you.
on our podcast today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
You're amazing.
That was amazing. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast.
Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and feel free to leave a review by clicking the link in the description below.
If you have any feedback or topics you'd like for us to cover in upcoming episodes, go to our website under the tab Pathways to Healing and fill out that form.
Until then, keep inspiring, stay resilient, and roll on.